So congratulations today. How do you feel?
I feel wonderful. After so many years, I never thought the wrestling fans and wrestlers thought of me that much. I really appreciate it.
So in all your years up and down the road, if one thing really stands out, what's that?
What stands out? I'll tell you what stands out. This is going back in the 40s. There were two young wrestlers coming into the United States, and one was Stu Hart, and one was Lord Jan Blairs from England, and Stu Hart from Canada. So Toots Munt at that time was the wrestling promoter in New York City, and he said to me, I want you to go to Kennedy Airport and pick up these two boys. One is Stu Hart, named, the other Lord Jan Blairs, and take them to Washington, D.C. They are both wrestling there tonight. So are you. I said, okay, fine. So I went and picked them up. So on the way down, it was midsummer. Must have been about 90, 95, maybe even 100. So I said, I'm going to pull a little joke. I had a blanket in the back of my car, and Jan Blairs is sitting in the back. So I says, Jan, you got to cover yourself up. He says, you might be wrestling one of us, and we don't want the people to know you're in the car. So I put a blanket over him, and I put my heater on, midsummer. And he's under there for about a half hour. He says, can I come out now? I said, no, you're still 10 miles away. After a while, I felt so sorry for him, I took the blanket away from him, and he sweated like he'd come out of a shower. And still today, Lord Blairs now lives in Hawaii. And every time he calls me or I call him, I always tell him this story, and he still laughs about it. That's how I got to meet those Stu Hart and Jan Blairs.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
So you've seen it all, in this business, from pre-television, television, and what they're doing today.
Right.
You were part of all that.
Well,
did you ever think that it would ever get to the fireworks and pomp that it is today?
Well, I don't know. Now, I watched TV before it ever came out, before the war. Back in 39, I think, it was 39 or 40, at the Jamaica Arena in Long Island. And they were testing the TV, and they were down the basement. So when I got through wrestling, one of the boys in the dressing room said to me, Angelo, did you ever see TV? I said, what's TV? I had no idea what it was. He says, go downstairs and you'll see it. So I went down there. At that time, they had 10-inch screens. And there I seen the matches up above me. I said, oh my God, I'm watching the matches and I'm here. How can they do that? And that's how the first time I'd seen TV. Then, of course, the war broke out, it all stopped. And at that same time, they were doing the telephone where you can speak to somebody and watch it like you're in person. And they came out with the TV instead of the telephone. And in fact, I was one of the first wrestlers that was on TV in California. California came after years after New York on TV, and I happened to be there, and I was one of the first. And it was amazing because when you walk down the street, people all watch TV. Hey, there's so-and-so, here's so-and-so. And it amazed me. Then first thing you know, then in Oklahoma, then they got it. And I was almost the first one there too. And to me, it was, new, something new but like you said, would you ever think it'd come up so big? Really, for a while, yes, I thought it was going to be a big, big thing, which it did. And that's how TV is today.
It's pretty amazing how it's outlasted pretty much everything. The variety show, the
right.
this, the that, and it's the Western. It's still on.
It's still on. It's still a big thing. It's still a big thing. People pay a lot of money to see it and everything. It's excuse me. And it's like that all over the country. And not only here, all over Europe. Now, like my son Mario, he's got TV, and I think he's got shows almost 70% in the United States, and he's got a half a dozen in Europe. And the people just love it. The people just love it.
So, let me see, one last one. Do you miss being in the office?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, and I retired in 1982. And I've seen things changing. I didn't know if it was going to be to the good or bad. So I decided to see Vince McMahon Sr. We were taping in Pennsylvania, and I went in there, and Buddy Rogers happened to be in the room. So I asked Buddy Rogers if he would excuse us. I'd like to talk to Mr. McMahon Sr. And he left, and I says, Vincent, I'm sorry, I have to tell you that I quit, I retired. He says, you can't do it. I says, I'm sorry. At that time, I controlled all New England, from the Boston Garden to Maine, through Vermont to New Hampshire. I control all that area. And I've just retired. Then my son wanted to go in the promotion business. I went along, beat the people I knew, newspaper people, TV people. I introduced them, get them in with them, you know, and that was it. And then I finally stopped.
And when Vince Jr. went national, what on earth did you think?
Well, I was surprised. Well, you know, I've seen it coming, to be honest with you. Now that you bring that up, I've seen it coming that way years before it was going to before young Junior came in. And I've told his father, Senior, I says, Vince, you remember a promoter in New York City? You should know. Jack Curley. He was a promoter, but his promotion was all the big towns throughout the United States. And I said, that's going to happen again with this TV. He said, never. He said, it'll never happen. So I says, well, anyway. So then when I retired, I quit. His son took over, and that's what happened. His son seen it ahead of him, you know. And that was it.
Pretty good. Well,
that's right.
And thank
yes,
you very
sir.
much.
And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you want to see more classic wrestling from the Savoldi Wrestling Library, head on over to SavolWrestling.com.